Hey everyone, I'm Andy. I'm with Basecamp, and this is Going Remote. We are doing a live stream series about parents who are working with kids at home. The series is actually about what it is to work at home, and obviously, if you've got kids at home, there's a big component there about childcare and getting your responsibilities done. So we have some of our parents from Basecamp here to talk to you today. Y'all want to go around and introduce yourselves? Anyone?
I'll start.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I work in support at Basecamp. I've been here for a long time. I am a new parent. I have a 7-month-old, and I'm only back at work. This is my 3rd month, I think, back at work after parental leave. So it's pretty wild.
All right, I am John. I am on the ops team here at Basecamp. I have with me Ava, our oldest child, who is 11. I have Nora with me. She is 10. And upstairs is our 4 other kids. They are 7, 5, 3, and less than 1.
Good job, John.
I remember all their ages and all their names. So.
I was going to say, that's impressive that you can remember them all. That's good.
Birthday's really tough.
I'm Andrea. I work with people up at Basecamp. I'm in Chicago, and I've been at Basecamp for 9 years. I have 2 kids. Ellie is 7.5 in 1st grade, and Abby is 2.5, usually in daycare. Yeah.
And my name is Waylon Wong. I am co-produce and co-host the Rework podcast, and I have a 7-year-old 1st grader named Beatrix.
Good timing, Beatrix.
Timing.
Good timing. Good timing. Is that you? Yeah, it's live right now. Yeah.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, I'm Connor, and this is my youngest, Maeve, who's just having a meltdown. But we're thriving now, and I've got 4 kids at home, 10, 9, 5, and 3. And we homeschool for the last couple of years, so a lot of things aren't as different for us as they are for some, but the added stress and such of the virus stuff has made it not exactly calm either around our house.
So you've been homeschooling for a while then, so this is not super different. For parents who are newly homeschooled, like what tricks do you have? Do you have anything that you've learned in those years of doing it that you might share?
Well, I wish I could have useful advice. However, I don't actually personally do much of the homeschooling. My wife, Katie, does almost all of it. I do the occasional math lesson here and there. But I mean, the kinds of things that are generally useful are like having a door on the place where you're trying to work, closing it when you don't want people to come in, and having those kinds of signals, stuff like that. But, I don't have any great words of wisdom in terms of the actual schooling part of it, but be kind to yourself mostly.
Right.
I think too, people that are just jumping into it, like it's totally different than us that have homeschooled for a long period of time too. Like it's not, like we have time to plan our years out and our time out, and everybody else has kind of been thrown into this, and maybe get some direction from teachers and that sort of thing. But it's certainly not normal right now for everybody.
Yeah, totally. Like we, have months to plan curriculum and decide on things, and it took at least a year to feel like we were decent at the whole homeschool thing in the first place. So it's like you gotta be kind to yourself. It's a big transition.
Yeah, for sure. So we actually got a question in from the public, and if anyone would like to respond to this and how you handle it. Yannick asks, if you're home alone with kids under 3 for most of the day, how do you manage to get work done while they're craving your attention and not sleepy?
You don't.
Yeah.
So this happened to me recently. Our nanny was sick. So before we were self-isolating, my husband is a cook at a restaurant, and the restaurant is now closed, and so he's home all the time and able to help with our 7-month-old. But when he was still working, our nanny was sick last minute, like really early into me coming back from work. And when the baby was awake, I wasn't working. And when the baby was sleeping, I would wear them and work as much as I could. But I was really honest with the team about what was going on. I didn't pretend to work. I don't think people should pretend to work. And I don't think people should try to work while doing childcare. Both of those things are full-time jobs. And you're doing a shitty job on, sorry kids, both if you're trying to work and take care of your children. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but that's my answer.
No, I think that's totally accurate because you know, a lot of companies just assume that you're gonna just like push through, right? And I think a lot of what makes our remote culture successful is a little more empathy about that, and that seems to be a lot of things that we have. Andrea, like from your perspective as the people ops person, you know, how do you see the employer side of the like people with young children? You know, how does that work?
I mean, I think empathy is really at the heart of it. We can't. I mean, if people give us in normal times are giving us their best work and supporting Basecamp as an employee, this is like the opportunity for the employers to now turn around and return the favor and say, you've been working hard for us for so long. We're going to give you the time and the space to handle this extremely weird situation. And like personally, from a people ops perspective, this has been really hard for me because a lot of my job is supporting the employees at Basecamp, but it's really hard to do that when you yourself personally are having a hard time dealing with just, you know, with the kids at home, with just the climate in general. So I think from like an HR perspective, recognizing that you might not have the capacity to do that right now, or at least not as much as you normally would. And again, just allowing the empathy, like showing yourself some kindness as well.
Yeah. So on our support one, they talked about grace and space, right? That was the tool that support uses whenever we get sort of a grumpy person. Is that normally it's not about Basecamp, you know, it's about something that's going on in that person's life. Same thing maybe applies. Does anybody else want to weigh in on some strategies or tips or maybe just open challenges you've had with working while you have children at home?
I think for the kids under 3, I have a 2.5-year-old. And so I've just had to get really good at prioritizing. Like sometimes there's stuff that needs to get done. Like one thing, if I can do one thing in a day and like identify what that one thing is that has to get done, that's reasonable. But to think that I'm going to accomplish the same amount of work with a 2.5-year-old at home is like, that's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. So it's just really being like setting the intention at the beginning of every day and then forgiving myself if I can't quite get there.
Yeah.
And then pawning her off on the older kid too. Super helpful.
That's a totally legit strategy. Go, your older sisters want to play with you.
Yeah.
We did a good amount of that. I also find like waking up early and doing some work before anyone's awake can be a way that I can feel like I at least was able to accomplish an hour of super focused time before everybody else was up. It's not always easy to wake up early, but that's one thing that I've done and to try to get some stuff done because I know that I won't be able to get much work done when I've got something else going on with my kids.
One thing that I've done too is kind of be selective about the tasks to work on, and like some things I can work on and be distracted, and there's other things that I need a lot of focus on that I can save for another time when I know that I'll have the mental resources to be able to work through those things. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, on a super practical level, so my husband has always worked from home. He's a writer and yeah, daddy. And yep, the only other person living in this house. And the way, and like we are like very like structure people. We really like structure, which made like spring break really hard. But now that we're back on kind of like a school schedule with like materials that our daughter's classroom teacher sends us, basically we split up the day. Like we started at 8, and my husband is on from 8 until 1, and then I just kind of like stop whatever I'm doing at 1 p.m. and then like I'm on from like 1 to 6. So it's just like a very kind of like blunt way to chop up the day. And like to John's point, anything that requires like focus work, like if I'm editing audio, if I'm doing an interview with someone, that all is saved for, that's like squashed into the morning hours as much as possible. And then in the afternoon, that is like time I can like catch up on emails and like take care of like smaller tasks that can be like chopped up into like 5 to 15 minute segments of time that I get in between things. And like my husband needs like 3 to 4 hours of completely uninterrupted focus time to get what he needs to get done. And he's on like a deadline for like a big hairy book project. So I'm very like cognizant of protecting his time as well. And he's good at protecting my time in the morning. And that's just kind of how we split it up.
Yeah, it's basically matching your attention span with your kids' attention span.
Yeah. Do we have
Also,
anything?
Play-Doh. Sorry.
Oh yeah, Play-Doh choice tool.
Seriously,
Yeah.
we just got some new Play-Doh this week for this exact purpose, and you know it's a magical relief when things are going crazy. We just have something special, you know, that we pull out for these moments where you really are feeling like, okay, I need some time, and that's when we pull out the special Play-Doh or the special whatever. Like it works, you know.
We do the same thing.
Yeah.
Does anybody have that toy with the rock that you smash open with the fossil inside? I've seen everybody's been buying those lately.
Sounds cool.
Our
Yeah.
daycare teacher sent us a time waster activity, which is like you freeze a bunch of toys in ice and then just give the kid some salt and like a scraper, and it just takes like half an hour for the scraper.
You're giving away all the secrets to the children who are here.
Do any of the kids that are here want to share their perspective? I mean, how is it when your parents are, working at home? Like, what's do you have anything that you want to add?
No.
No.
I'm usually the one who's watching the kids while he works, so I get the kids.
She is. Ava is very helpful whenever I'm working and Marie's teaching one of the other kids or something like that. Ava and Nora both are helpers really, because they're the oldest and they take the lion's share of the kid responsibility. That's for sure.
What are some tools that you use to keep the smaller kids busy? Like, what are some of your favorite activities you like to do together?
Not rope. It's something other than rope.
The TV. That's like I'll sit there for a couple hours.
Classic. Yeah, we don't have any more questions coming in right now. For people who are watching this later, like what are some other things that you've used? Do any of you use like a sign on the door? Do you have like set hours? Like what? I've seen some of these tools on Reddit and stuff, but what are some like practical things that you all use?
I just tell my husband what's going on. I mean, I don't have to tell the children, but I just say, hey, I have these meetings today. You can interrupt these if you need to. These meetings probably too sensitive for an interruption. But like, obviously there's an emergency, always interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we talk about that every day. And before the meetings, I remind him. And I've had meetings get interrupted and be like, oh, I got to call you back. I need to go breastfeed. This is, a meltdown is happening. And everybody's really understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's in the same boat right now. I was on like a very stuffy conference call the other day, and Ellie and Abby freaked out. They were screaming and everyone could hear it. And I was like embarrassed and apologized profusely. And everyone kind of laughed and said, we're all in the same boat right now. So it's kind of a nice, it's a nice experience. We don't have the space. We live in an apartment in Chicago that doesn't have a lot of, it's very open concept, and there's very few doors. So we just have to like make it. We've just been trying to make it work. We're not the best at structure like Waylon's family. It's very much like going over the schedule at the beginning of the day and what can't be interrupted, the few things that cannot be interrupted, and everything else is kind of. And my husband's the same way. He's working from home now too, which is new. He's never worked from home before. So it's just kind of a recap at the beginning of the day, every day. This is what our loose schedule looks like. And can you take the kids during this call? And okay, I'm going to take the kids in the other room during this call. And just being as flexible as we can.
Mm-hmm. So in previous places that you worked, let's say your workplace isn't as empathetic to the needs of childcare at home. Like, what are some tools as an employee you can use? I mean, we've all had, jobs before this, perhaps with children. Like, what if you're at if you have a less empathetic manager? Like, I guess aside from just saying like, hey, I need this space, what tools have you used before to get yourself that space that you need? Because I imagine some people watching this are maybe working for companies that aren't as flexible.
Well, my husband currently works for a company that's not, they're being great now, but this is a new thing for them. Like they're getting used to how remote work is working for them. So it's like, I think Connor said, closing the door is a big one. Like just having the sign that this is uninterrupted work time, and then opening the door again when it's okay to come in, and not, it's a temporary thing. The kids seem to understand that more than just like dad is off limits for 8 hours.
And also just like meetings are the big pain in the butt because of screaming and all that stuff that happens in the background that you maybe can ignore while you're working on your own, but it's harder to ignore when other people are listening because you have the embarrassment factor, like being in the grocery store and having your kid meltdown. Like it's just, you have this whole other thing with other people watching. So just like trying to move away from meetings wherever possible and say, hey, like, can we do this over text instead? Or can I write it up or whatever? It's another, I think, totally probably untapped method in a lot of companies that aren't used to working remotely or asynchronously.
Yeah, it seems like another reason to have fewer meetings and more write-ups and asynchronous working is that every time you have an impermeable thing on your schedule, it's like another thing you need to work around with childcare. Whereas we don't really think about how much time that occupies in people's world when we set that meeting for 8 people, on a shared calendar, but it just ripples throughout because now spouses are telling their, partners that they have a block. And if it's not a super important meeting, that sucks because all that energy is just wasted. That's another thing against meetings.
I was going to say that I think like one big tip I can give is like, be easy on yourself when it comes to screen time. Like now is not the time to be really neurotic about like screen time and what it does to kids' brains. Like if TV is like the thing that is going to like help keep your child like entertained and buy you that like 15, 30 minutes, however much time you need to get something done that is like some like immovable thing in your schedule, or like that meeting with your boss where your boss is not going to be understanding about interruptions or rescheduling or canceling the meeting or whatever. It's like, it's fine. Like you just like, we're all in survival mode. So you just like do what you need to do. And like, it's just like, again, like now is not the time to like stress out about screen time. And there's actually like a lot of interesting stuff for kids to watch now. You're going to, it's like, she's going to go watch TV now. Now that you've been given carte blanche, you can negotiate with your dad about that. So like, we really like Art for Kids Hub, which is like a drawing show, and there's like tons of back content there. Like, and I feel like, it's like, then she's like doing something like slightly interactive, but even if it's not interactive, it's like, who cares? Like, we have Disney Plus on, I feel like 6 hours a day now. It's okay.
There's also a lot of neat resources that just came out now too with like Mo Willems doing the art classes, and I saw LeVar Burton is doing, reading time and that sort of thing, which is really neat that these things are happening to help people out.
Yeah, we also, one thing we've found that's just really helped our whole family have sanity is just going for a scheduled long walk / scooter ride, whatever. Every single day, rain or shine, it's happening. And it's just been a nice thing for everyone to look forward to, I think. And it's just, good for the soul to get outside for a bit and have some space away from each other, I think, as well. So that's been something it doesn't directly impact your work life maybe, but it, I think overall kind of helps change the tone around the house for us at least.
Yeah. Does anybody schedule like blocks to maybe shove off for a minute, go for a walk, like depressurize? Like I sometimes put some of those on my calendar. I don't know if anyone else does, or if you just do it when you feel like it,
Usually a few times a week, I try to get out for a bike ride, like at lunchtime, and just get out and get some fresh air, and then both clear your head from work and from home life, and it's always good. And usually, for me anyways, like at lunchtime works the best because I'm not really necessarily taking away from like family time, I guess, because a lot of times I eat lunch at my desk anyway, so it's probably a healthy habit to step away for a while. So
yeah.
I have a standing therapy appointment. I mean, I've always had it, but now it's like, I think even more important just to keep it and like keep that as like a sacrosanct time in the week, because, it's like kids like mirror your emotions, and like kids are like very good emotional radars. They pick up on how you're feeling and they mirror it back to you. So it's like, I can really feel the difference like in our household, but I'm like short on patience or just like not feeling my best, like that comes out immediately in the way that I parent and the way that I speak to my child, who left now, so I can like be more honest about this stuff. And so I think like having that like mental health time is like more important than ever, because otherwise it's like everything's gonna fall apart. Like I'm not gonna have the bandwidth to like be a patient spouse and parent if I don't have that time. So that's not like outside time. I'm like not good at exercising or getting outdoors, but I am very good at like now sitting at my computer and talking about my feelings once a week.
On a similar like mental health thing, something we started doing yesterday on our outside walk time is we just do a primal scream collectively to just like get out. It's like, and it's actually feels so good. We're just like, okay, like we're gonna count to 3. Everyone just like scream for all you're worth. We're just like walking down the alley by our house, and we just all just let it out. And it felt so good. So we're gonna like, our plan is to keep doing that every day. We just have like a scream time where everyone just like lets all that out, and then also just like maybe when things are feeling a little crazy, to just be like, hey, let's just get it out and do a little scream, everyone. And just like, it feels good sometimes to just go back to that urge inside you, just let it out. So that's something I think is another one that we found helpful recently.
That's an awesome idea.
That's amazing, Connor.
I hope that catches on, like it's good 8 a.m. primal scream.
Yes.
Do you do it by the same person's house every time?
No, but we should.
One question we got from Twitch. One issue I'm having at home is my spouse is not working right now and watching our kid full time, and I feel like there's some frustration directed towards me since I get to focus on work for some time while they're doing childcare all day. Any advice for navigating those feelings? Pretty heavy, but what do you think?
I mean, I can just say that it's more than one time we've talked about, and my wife and I talked about like the challenge of how it feels like my life is just like normal. I get to kind of generally carry on with things as they are. Meanwhile, she kind of has this whole other factor piled onto her lap because she does not work outside the home. She was homeschooling before, but our kids would go to like, a community thing twice a week for probably half the day. They would go play with friends on a regular basis. My wife would go hang out with her friends on a regular basis. There's like so many things that are just different that we don't have the ability to do now. Whereas me, like I used to just kind of work my whole day and then I would hang out with my family the rest of the time. And like, I've lost some things, but for the most part, like a lot of my life is a lot more normal right now than hers is. And it's like frustrating. It's just straight up. It is. And I think it's really valuable that that Zelt CM is like acknowledging and identifying this. And I think it's helpful to acknowledge and say, yeah, this different for the two of us. Okay. And, once you've acknowledged it, you can start being sympathetic. And so I just sent a message to my small team. I work with 2 other people on a super regular basis here at base camp. And this morning I let them know that I'm not going to start work until 9 and I'm going to end at 3 for the next while. I don't know how long, but that's what I'm trying out this week, because what we found is that by 3 o'clock, it's just someone's going to die around here unless we have a relief,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's worse. It's less hours. I've been working early in the morning and then chopping my day up super throughout the day. And I realized what happens there is I felt like I was working basically 12 hours a day with a bunch of little breaks in between, and it sucked for everybody. I was stressed out. My wife felt like I wasn't actually really ever there to help with things, and I was still ending the day at 5 something, which is 2 hours at least too late. So I'm adjusting my schedule this week to try something different, where I've got a focused block of time in the morning that I can spend on some family stuff. We have a nice, good breakfast together and enjoy some time together. Then I'll go to work, and planning on calling it by 3 o'clock at the latest, honestly, and saying, hey, now's my time. And then I'll probably take off with the kids for a walk or do something that occupies them and give her a break, because she's had this kind of banana situation to deal with all day long with 4 kids. And it's just too much, so that's kind of one thing that we're doing. I don't know if any of that's helpful, but
That's similar to our situation. My husband is suddenly taking care of a 7-month-old and has no place to go. They go on walks and that's it. And my husband is high risk, so he can't do any of the other errands that we might have to run. He said last week that he just wants to go to a store and buy an item. And I think we all feel that way. It doesn't even matter what the thing is. Let's just go do something that's not walking around the block. And we talk about this almost every single day. I think this type of frustration, I get to use a certain part of my brain that maybe he doesn't get to use very often because he's with the 7-month-old all day. And we're incredibly privileged to have this scenario in our family, but it does create some frustration. So, for us, what's possible, because we only have 1 child, is I go to bed pretty early with the baby, and my husband stays up and plays video games with his friends for a while. And he does stuff like that to connect with other people and not be in baby mode the whole time. I don't know if that's possible for you, Zeltsium, but giving your partner space to be alone and to think about things beyond childcare is essential for keeping a stable mind.
I like this one. What morning habits can be done to keep yourself aligned? What kind of regular things do you do during your boot up? Maybe parent stuff or not parent stuff, just individual stuff.
I sneak away really early and I go downstairs and make tea and have breakfast and write for 5 minutes at least. It's a minimum of 5 minutes. And then everybody else comes downstairs and we hang out for half an hour, and then I start work.
Yeah, around here I get up at 5:30 or so. So I still got a couple hours before anybody else is really up. And I use that time to do some scripture study, and I work out, and then people are waking up and spend time making breakfast for everyone and spend some time as a family doing a kind of scripture study routine that we like to do together as a family too, and discuss what we're learning, which is nice. And then this morning we played tag for 5 minutes, and then I went to work. So it was kind of a nice to have a little bit of fun, get out some energy, and then carry on.
I feel like too, one of the best ways to keep yourself aligned in the morning is to kind of prepare things before you go to bed. Not leave yourself a mess to try and clean up before you go to work, or just kind of, and also just getting a good night's sleep. That's pretty important here also. If you're not sleeping well, and it's really tough with small kids, but sleeping well is definitely important to starting your day right.
We have a couple new guests on the show.
Yeah. I have to remind myself to, she's right in my way, to take care of myself too. It's so easy to just like go into mom mode and be like, okay, I got to get the kids up, get the kids dressed, get them fed, get them ready for the day. But it's like just to take half an hour for yourself. Like I just get up and make coffee and sit at the table and drink coffee and maybe like read some entertainment website or something like that. Something that's like super low stress, and then deal with the kids.
I actually get up last in my family. I just like, if I'm not up by 7:30, my husband comes and wakes me up. But otherwise it's like, our kid gets up when she gets up, and then it's like Disney Plus in the morning, just right downstairs, Disney Plus. And then what I found helpful in the morning was the night before, I leave my phone plugged in downstairs. Now we have like 2 levels. Not everyone has 2 levels, but I found that it was actually not enough the night before to leave my phone plugged in the other room. It like literally needed to be downstairs to disincentivize me from like going and just like sitting on it before bed and like doom surfing and getting myself all like worked up into like an anxious ball. And so I leave it like downstairs, and then I try to like each morning it's like a challenge, like how long can I leave my phone alone like after I wake up? You know, it's like, can I make it all the way through like my shower without checking Twitter if I'm showering? It's like, you know, can I make it all the way until like I've like had my cup of coffee, you know? So I think it's like not firing up the dread machine so early has been very helpful to me.
Do not disturb is magic. it's just magic. Yeah, I turned off my phone probably like 6 hours yesterday, and it was swell. You know, no news, no nothing, just Netflix. So, cool. Well, we're we're just over half an hour now. Does anybody have anything they want to add about working from home with kids? Any bonus round stuff? Ava or Nora, you got anything you want to add? No. Well, I appreciate everybody being on the stream today. Thank you for taking the time out. We're going to do these pretty regularly. I think this week we're going to do another strategy talk with Jason and Ryan. And if you have any ideas for live streams that you want to see, John, I think this was your idea, I think, for the parent stream?
Yeah, I think this is my idea.
Yeah. So if anyone in the general public has an idea for a stream, tweet at us at Basecamp, or any Basecampers have any ideas, we're happy to do them. So we're just going to keep sharing how we work because we've been remote forever. It's been a long, like 2000 since the original, right? I don't know if we have any Basecamp historians here. Yeah, 2004. So this isn't new to us. So thank you, everybody. Catch you around. This will be recorded. You'll be able to catch it on our twitch.tv/Basecamp and at Basecamp on Twitter. So you can watch it in perpetuity. Thank you. See y'all.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.